Housing Commission Board of Commissioners. The time is 9:04 on July 19th, 2024. I'm calling to order today's regular meeting of the board. We are meeting in person this morning with commissioners, staff, and members of the public in attendance. We have a quorum of 5 commissioners present. Video of today's meeting is also being streamed live online. The link to watch today's meeting is on the Housing Commission's website at www.sdhc.org. To accommodate additional members of the public who may wish to participate in today's meeting, we have set up an overflow room down the hall. The live streaming video of today's meeting will be shown in the overflow room. Speaker slips are available in the overflow room for members of the public who may wish to provide comments to the board today. Our staff will bring those speaker slips to me here in the boardroom. At the appropriate time, our staff will also escort speakers from the overflow room to make sure that they are able to provide their comments to the board in person today. Members of the public here in the boardroom or in the overflow room who wish to provide comments to the board will need to complete a speaker slip. In the boardroom, please submit your speaker slip to our Vice President of Communications, Scott Marshall, who is standing at the side of the boardroom. In the overflow room, submit your speaker slip to our Communications and Government Relations staff in the room. To speak in favor of any item on today's agenda, please submit the gold-colored form. To speak in opposition to any agenda item, please submit the pink-colored form. Those who wish to address the board about a topic that is not on the agenda should fill out a white speaker request form. Members of the public will have 3 minutes each to provide their comments about agenda items or non-agenda public comment. However, if a large number of people wish to provide non-agenda public comment or speak on a single agenda item, comments will be limited to 1 minute each. Collective testimony by those who support or oppose an item shall be limited to no more than 15 minutes total per side. When I call your name, please step to the podium, state your name for the record, and begin making your comments. Now is the time for non-agenda public comments. We will begin with Joy Sunyata.
How much time do I have, Scott? Thank you so much for watching over me, will you? I can't see that well, so you watch over me, will you? Okay. Good morning. Thank you, Chair. Good to see you sitting in that position. Okay, it's been a big week in good ways. Joyce Sunyata, District 3. A couple of items this morning. I'll start out with this one. I want to talk with you about the update on the new San Diego Housing Commission Strategic Plan Protocol. The audit department recently did an audit on the performance audit on our acquisitions, and it included a paragraph on the need for a strategic plan. And as you know, our plan expires this year. And included in that paragraph was that we do need to include strategies for acquisitions in that plan. So I'm sure you'll be doing that. So President and CEO Jones told the City Council that we have an RFP for the plan that is in the works. And so that's exciting. So my request to you is that you do your absolute excellence in your role as board commissioners on the update to this plan. Now let's see if I can fit this in. On Monday's agenda, at the very bottom, I rarely go there, public notices, S401, call for nomination to the San Diego Housing Commission. Mayor appoints, if still vacant, after 45 days, then the council shall make such appointments. 3 expired seats remain unfulfilled on your board. After 45 days, the nomination period opened yesterday, and it goes through the 23rd, which is Tuesday at 5 p.m. We need a qualified member, number 1. Number 2 and number 3 are tenant members that it says of the Housing Commission. I'm not sure what that is, but it's a regular tenant. Antone is so great. council members, I'm almost done. Council members submit one nominee per seat to Director of the Legislative Affairs, Luz Anaya, or Heidi Palmer, Legislative Assistant. So I say that because let's get this going. I'm going to speak on this Monday at City Council because we want to fill the board out, and I want more tenant members on it. So thank you for listening. I think you might have given me a little bit of extra time, but I really want you to help us fill the board. And thank you for listening, and love to all.
Thank you, Joy. I'll just note for everybody here that the Strategic Plan Committee will be public meetings, so public comment and input is available and welcome. Next, Irma Shute.
Good morning. My name is Irma Shute, and I'm a Senior Housing Assistant for Special Programs here at the Housing Commission, and I'm a proud member of the local SEIU 221. I'm also part of the bargaining unit representing the membership during negotiations. We've been negotiating in collaboration with SDHC for the last 3 months, and we have tentatively agreed on over 90% of our proposed articles, and only 2 articles are left, pay and work schedule, at the table. Both articles are high priorities for our membership. The bargaining unit has tried to propose several compromises in hybrid options and pay to find compromise and common ground. Unfortunately, the Commission stays firm and unmoved on these requests. We are hopeful to end negotiations yesterday, but that was not the case. We are scheduled to meet again in 2 weeks per SDHC request, but since they have requested additional time to review, they have since then requested additional time to review our last proposal. This has been the 3rd time they've done so. They've requested to skip weeks in negotiations, which further delays us in reaching an agreement. But we are confident to come to an agreement on July 29th. We look forward to it, and thank you for your time. I just want to add that I personally love working here and assist the clients that I serve. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, and I'll also note that all of the commissioners have this document from 221 as well, so thank you. Next, Lourdes de la Torre.
Hi, my name is Lourdes de la Torre, and I'm here from San Diego Regional Center. Just wanting to advocate for adults with disabilities and their need for housing. So wanted to reach out to the Housing Commission to see if we could partner up with some developments and to include our clients in those developments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Next, I'm sorry, one more, Joni Halpern.
Thank you. My name is Joni Halpern. I work with the Partnership for the Advancement of New Americans. I came here today because I wanted to do 2 things. I wanted to tell you thanks for your CEO and Mr. Davis, Lisa Jones and Mr. Davis, having had the patience and concern to talk with us about the Mariners Cove project in the Peninsula area. And I wanted to tell you that we really appreciated your forthrightness as far as you were able to go, that we look forward to further communications with you, and that we feel, how would you say, we feel kind of uplifted and hopeful that you made the point that you're very concerned about the robust relocation benefits that you're working towards. I know that you're just as concerned as we are with the big, huge deficit of affordable units that has been created over the last 40 years in San Diego. So we're going to be looking at alternatives that we might present to you, ideas that we might have, and we look forward to further dialogue with you. I just wanted to say thanks. It's nice to know that public officials give a darn.
We appreciate all the public comments this morning. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to commissioner comments. I'll ask if any commissioners would like to make any comments this morning. Commissioner Vasquez.
Thank you for that. We were just smiling at each other because it's rare that people give thanks, and I think that's a good space to be in. After being a commissioner since 2021, I can tell you that this specific housing commission cares more about affordable housing and the public than I think other commissions, and in a way that we have a unique board, and that is another, as far as how the agency is actually created, it's unique for the country. And it's also unique that everybody here, I can honestly say, truly, truly cares about building affordable housing and being innovative, especially under Ms. Jones and Mr. Davis, innovative in how to create that. So thank you for that. And I look forward to helping make that happen.
Commissioner Cushman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A number of years ago, when the AFL-CIO celebrated their 100th anniversary, I was honored to be recognized as the business friend of labor. So I'm sorry the lady from SEIU left, but I would like to go on record saying that I think it is very difficult when people do not come to the office anymore. Unfortunately, it's a bad thing that came out of COVID that we don't go to the office anymore for two reasons. One, in dealing with this vulnerable population, we really need our folks here to be able to talk with each other, to work on solutions and how we can better serve this population. When everybody's at home and talking on Teams and Zoom and all that stuff, you don't have the same amount of cooperation and working together. Second of all, the folks in this population really need to eyeball each other. We found from the property in Kearney Mesa, this is the first meeting I've been to where we didn't have anybody in public comment from that project talking to us, because we all went out there, we've addressed it, we did a tour. It's a wonderful facility, and I think that we all listened and did the best we could to make it a wonderful place for everybody to live. So I just want to go on record. I support labor, and I've worked with SEIU over many years, but I really would love our people to return to office. If I had my way, it'd be every day. That's probably not going to happen in this environment today, but I just want to go on record so SEIU knows, at least there's one commissioner that believes they really need to come back to the office. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments?
Yes, I'd like to reiterate on the point you made, Commissioner Cushman, about we need some of the employees back in the office at least a few days a week, minimum. The population that you're dealing with needs to see you. Someone needs to be here in order to interact with them. On the phone, a lot of times you can't even get a hold of them. So if we have people in the office, that's the best solution, and that works best, and I'm for that. I'm not saying every day in the office, but I feel a few days a week at least. And that's it.
Thank you. You good? Yes.
Thank you so much. I completely agree with Mr. Cushman as well as Mr. Jackson. It is having a hybrid model, I think, provides. It's been common. It's another product of the environment post-COVID, where you have some more flexibility. You're not chained to your desk Monday through Friday, but you are able to interact with your coworkers. So, along with what some of my other colleagues have mentioned, and having employees in the office, it's also for the benefit of the public that we serve. It's also beneficial for building team spirit. I love being able to to clock in online, and that's what we did when we were in the throes of COVID, and it was hard getting up and driving 30 minutes and parking and getting here when we originally did. But I feel like this board, at least once we started having public meetings, even our camaraderie and getting to know each other happened because we were here personally. So I concur, and I think that there's definitely different options available besides Monday through Friday that would be beneficial, where we would have we would have the ability to interface with the public as well as our colleagues and create that bond. And there's no replacement for human interaction. So thank you.
Commissioner Hubbard.
I'll put in my little 2 cents. I do agree with the rest of the board that it's important for everyone to at least see each other in person. It's important for the culture. It's hard to get a feel of a culture. It's easy to lose the culture of a company when everyone's working from home. And I do, in a public service, I do feel that there needs to be some times where you're in the office. And so I just wanted to say that I agree with everything.
Before I turn to Casey, I'll just add that regardless of how we move forward, I appreciate how this workforce and the employees handled the past 4 years. It was a very challenging environment to continue to provide the public services and the level of public services with the increasing demand for the resources that we have in unprecedented times and with all these restrictions. And I think that you all did a fantastic job of making the best of a very difficult situation since the pandemic started. So I appreciate the comments of all my commissioners. I just wanted it to not go without being said how much we appreciate how everyone has made this work and maintained the service levels and the commitment to the public that you all have done. So thank you. Casey.
Sorry.
Lisa, sorry.
Thank you, Commissioner Klumpner. I'm sorry, he's calling you Ryan. So on that note, and I know I have said it many times as I've sat in this seat over the last several months, we have an incredibly dedicated team at all levels, across all different types of positions, across all different kinds of work. We have folks that are dedicated, innovative, kind, considerate, courteous, provide great customer service. We were able recently at an all-employee meeting to get together, which doesn't happen often, and I had many folks come up after that meeting, and we actually had some of our residents and participants that we serve come and talk about their stories. And I had so much feedback at that meeting about how nice the event was, how great it was to hear about the work that we all collectively do together and to hear about the impact that it creates. There was a lot of energy and excitement in that room. So I appreciate the staff making that time, doing everything they do. We are committed to continuing to work with the union. This is about staff unity and teamwork and morale. It's certainly not about performance or penalizing. It's about coming together and supporting each other. And I know that we can work through something that's successful for everybody. And do just want to reiterate my own appreciation and value of everything that everybody does here.
Thank you, Lisa. Casey.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm here to provide an update on the Coordinated Intake Shelter Program. So in the month of June, we were able to complete 295 referrals to shelter, which is 17% of all referrals received. That means that 1,441 referrals were not able to be met. There was an impact because Golden Hall intakes were suspended on June 6th, though we think that's probably the reason it dipped a couple percentage points. Year to date, since we just ended the year, I can tell you that over the last year, we have processed 21,217 referrals to shelter. 19% was how we ended the year. So we were able to complete 4,063 referrals to shelter, and 81% we were not able to meet, or 17,154 referrals for shelter. Again, the top three reasons we're unable to complete is that we cannot, 48% is because we don't have a top male bunk. And then the number two reason is because we don't have a male bottom bunk. And number three is no female bottom bunk. Those are the top three reasons we can't accommodate.
Casey, can you repeat that 21,000 number again? What was that?
21,217 total referrals in this fiscal year.
Over the last fiscal year.
Yeah.
And this is a team of 2 with 1 supervisor, is that?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that works 7 days a week?
Yes.
Except for, I think, Christmas and New Year's.
City holidays.
City holidays,
Yeah.
city holidays. And then we have a process to still accommodate how people get connected
Correct.
to shelter during those days. So except for city holidays, this is 7 days a week, 2 staff, 1 supervisor. This is a lot of activity, and it's funded through the Homelessness Response Center. So it's actually funded through that budget with some offset funds that we contribute as well. I just wanted to call attention to, we talked a lot last time about these aren't just numbers, these are people, but I just wanted to acknowledge and recognize the staff behind this that are doing that amazing work. It's a big job, and it's a stressful job on a daily basis because obviously we're trying to work with people in need and get them connected to resources. I also just wanted to share that we have been in conversation with the city, HSSD, and the mayor's office, and we are hoping effective August 1st that safe sleeping sites available at OLOT and beds available at Seniors Landing will also become part of coordinated intake, correct? That's the goal? Yeah.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. I don't have any, actually, I do have one question this month. We've been watching an increase in the need for family shelter. Has there been any change to that trend?
I mean, we still only have 1 to 2 units that come online each month, so it's we're only able to accommodate probably 7% of all referrals to family shelter. The item we're going to bring before you today is hopeful because we will be adding on 39 more beds for families. But yeah, no change, no significant change.
And those beds will essentially be occupied almost immediately when they come online. Yeah. Thank you.
I believe in this year's point-in-time count, there were high double-digit numbers of increases for families as part of the point-in-time count. So I think from sort of like being sort of economically displaced, we're seeing that trend up. That certainly trended very high compared to the previous year's point-in-time count.
I noticed that Scott Marshall put the box of tissues next to the chair seat this morning. I'm determined that those will not be needed.
That might be Mercy. I don't know if he gets
whoever that was. I noticed. Thank you, Casey. Next is the report from the president and CEO. Oh, lastly, I really appreciate and I'm so encouraged by the fact that those additional locations you mentioned will be getting added to the coordinated intake. And this is kind of deep in the weeds for the general public and everyone, but it's so important that we have a system that is communicating well across all resources. And we've seen what challenges it creates when we have disconnects there. So anybody who had any role in bringing that to fruition, thank you very much. And hopefully it leads to higher utilization of the resources that we have available.
All right, am I up? All right, this is a short one today. Good morning. Just a couple updates. You will recall that the funding available for the rehabilitation of our affordable housing properties was more limited this year than in previous years when going through the approval of our budget. But one of the larger items we included in our approved budget for this fiscal year was the replacement of air conditioning and heating or HVAC systems at our Kearney Vista property. That project is underway. Of the 144 units at Kearney Vista, which includes 2 managers' units, the HVAC replacement has been completed at 34 units. Another 16 units are currently in process. In the upcoming months, we will complete the remaining 94 units, and when all units are completed, we will have invested more than $2 million in HVAC system improvements alone. It really is very, yes. If an HVAC system stops working, property management and the service providers for the site work with tenants to provide temporary solutions until the HVAC system can be replaced. This includes providing portable air conditioners, cooling fans, and portable heaters for affected residents. Not that heaters are a big issue at the moment. We'll continue to update you on the progress of the capital improvement projects that we have planned across several affordable housing properties this fiscal year. As we mentioned during the budget process, there were some safety mitigation concerns and assessments going on, so we'll keep you posted on that. On June 29th, Governor Gavin Newsom signed the state budget into law. The state experienced a very difficult budget season this year as well, as I'm sure we're all aware. The final budget addressed a $46.8 billion deficit through a variety of measures agreed upon by the governor and leadership in the state Senate and Assembly. The state's budget does include an additional $500 million in low-income housing tax credits. As you see through many of the bond-related items that we present to you, these tax credits are a crucial source of financing for the creation and rehabilitation of affordable rental housing. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development describes low-income housing tax credit program as the most important resource for creating affordable housing in the United States today. The state budget also restored $315 million for the multifamily housing program. While this is a $10 million reduction in funding for this program, it was very good news to see that funding was predominantly restored. The multifamily housing program is another source of funding that supports the creation of affordable housing. For example, financing for the Levant Senior Cottages development in Linda Vista, which celebrated its grand opening on May 30th, included a state multifamily housing program loan. Additionally, the state's Homeless Housing Assistance and Prevention, or HAP program, one of the major resources in our own city, is one of the most significant sources of funding for ongoing homelessness and shelter services in our region. These include many of the programs we administer on the city's behalf based on the funding allocation decisions at the city. The state budget allocates $1 billion for $1 billion for a sixth round of HAP funding. However, as I mentioned, state lawmakers also cut funding in the budget for certain programs as a way to help address the state budget deficit. And if you look at the slides, you can see almost a direct offset between the budget cuts and the affordable housing investments, specifically between the budget cuts and the $1 billion in HAP. So we are seeing play out at the state level the same challenges we see play out here, which is, do we invest in crisis response or in long-term housing? Those are the same challenges that our lawmakers at the state level are having as we are grappling with. And we've seen it play out in the $1 billion in HAP. Programs subject to cuts include Cal Homes, which historically has been an important source of funding for our first-time homebuyer program. The state also reduced funding for the Veterans Housing and Homelessness Prevention Program. In the past, this program has awarded funding to affordable housing developers on which we have collaborated, such as St. Teresa of Calcutta, Vista del Puente in Southcrest, and most recently the Quattro at City Heights development. We can anticipate that the reduction in any type of funding for affordable housing will make production more challenging, but we will continue to watch for impacts these funding decisions may have in the coming year and beyond. I also wanted to note for the board that 10 measures have qualified to appear on the statewide ballot this November. The Housing Commission cannot take a position on any ballot measure, but we can provide general information. 2 measures of note are Proposition 5, which would lower the threshold to pass local housing and infrastructure bonds from 2/3 to a 55% of the vote, and Proposition 33, which would allow local governments to enact rent control. Under this proposition, while rent control would be allowable, local governments would not be required to enact such rent control. I want to take a moment to thank our policy team, and specifically Molly Weber, who works closely with our legislative consultant in Sacramento. We have very much over the last couple of years under Molly's leadership and with the leadership of this board, Jeff, and hopefully myself as well going forward, changed from a watching and monitoring approach to our work to a engagement, influence, impact. How do we advocate at a state level for the resources that our city needs, and also look to ways that we can help our policymakers develop good policy? Certainly, Molly's been doing that for I don't know how many years now at a local level, one of the best in my opinion in the city, but she's also really doing that at a state level too. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. Don't know why. I guess it's me today, Ryan. Thanks, Mercy. Anyway, 1 cent per. I'll keep it down. Molly, thank you. The work that you have led and the relationships that you have built at a state level are really changing who we are as an organization, and I look forward to many more great things. So I will end on that note.
Thank you, Lisa. Next is the approval of the minutes for the June 21st, 2024 regular meeting of the board. No speaker slips have been submitted regarding the minutes. Do any commissioners have any changes to the minutes, or do we have a motion? We have a motion by Commissioner Jackson, and a second by Commissioner Hubbard to approve the minutes from the June 21st, 2024 regular meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. On to item 100. Our first item on the agenda today is item 100, the approval of the contract amendment with the Salvation Army to operate the Haven Interim Shelter Program. We will take public comments after the staff presentation. Casey Snell, our interim senior vice president of Homelessness Housing Innovations, and Jonathan Herrera, director of Homelessness Housing Innovations, will present this item. Please begin when you are ready.
Thank you, Mario. Good morning. Next slide. In June 2022, the Housing Commission issued a request for qualifications with the intent of increasing shelter capacity with a specific focus on special populations to include transition-age youth, veterans, single women, seniors, individuals in need of respite care, and families with minor children. In November of that year, the Board of Commissioners approved the execution of a 1-year operating agreement with the Salvation Army to operate the Haven Interim Shelter Program, which included 2 one-year options to renew. The Housing Commission exercised the first option with the execution of the FY24 operating agreement, and the remaining option will be exercised with the execution of the fiscal year 2025 operating agreement. As part of the adoption of the City of San Diego fiscal year 2025 operating budget, the Housing Commission was allocated $429,000 in city general funds to support the expansion of shelter operations and capacity. The Haven Interim Shelter Program is located at the Salvation Army's Door of Hope campus. It provides safe, low-barrier, non-congregate, and semi-congregate shelter resources for families with children and single women experiencing unsheltered homelessness in the city of San Diego. Referrals are facilitated through the Coordinated Shelter Intake Program, with priority given to large families, families with children under the age of 4, or families with at least one member with a disabling condition. The proposed expansion of shelter operations in 2025 will provide accommodations for single-parent households headed by women, as well as single adult women. The program capacity will increase from 32 beds across 9 units to 71 beds across 25 units, with a unit breakdown shown on this slide. This expansion represents an increase to the program's capacity by 120%. It is also an increase in dedicated beds for families with children and single women system-wide by 18% and 10% respectively. The shelter program also supports the goals and intent of the Community Action Plan on Homelessness for the City of San Diego, which identified the need for additional shelter capacity for both individuals and families.
The shelter program service model is aligned with Housing First practices and employs housing-focused case management in an effort to support households in developing appropriate housing plans and to support their transition to permanent or other longer-term housing solutions. Program staff coordinate with and provide referrals to appropriate county, state, and federal programs as needed. The program leverages supportive services that are available at the Door of Hope campus, as well as mainstream community resources, including employment opportunities, childcare, self-sufficiency, and life skill classes. The program model also employs a good neighbor policy, which focuses on engagement with the surrounding community to support a clean, safe, and welcoming environment. The Salvation Army is an established homelessness service provider and social service provider in the San Diego region and throughout the nation. The organization has an extensive history operating a diverse portfolio of programs that service both individuals and families experiencing homelessness, including interim housing, transitional housing, prevention and diversion, rapid rehousing, and permanent supportive housing. The Haven Interim Shelter is part of the organization's 7-acre Door of Hope campus in Kearney Mesa, which also includes transitional housing, rapid rehousing, permanent supportive housing, and a substance use rehabilitation center. For fiscal year 2025, the City of San Diego has committed $450,450 in city general funds, which were not part of the FY 2024 program budget. Of these funds, $429,000 is for program operations, and $21,450 is for Housing Commission administration expense. In addition, the Housing Commission has allocated $292,913 in federal Moving to Work funds, which is an increase of $12,600 from the prior fiscal year. Combined, the city general funds and the increase in Housing Commission Moving to Work funds represents a total increase of $441,600 for program operations in fiscal year 2025, for a final operating budget of $721,913. Housing Commission staff recommends that the Board of Commissioners take the actions detailed in the staff report and on the slides shown above. That concludes our presentation. We're available for questions.
Thank you, Jonathan and Casey. We have one speaker slip on item 100 from Joyce Sunyata.
Thank you so much. Couldn't do it without you, Scott. Thank you so much. Joyce Sunyata, District 3. First of all, thank you, Molly. I am totally in love with the Government Affairs Department, and at ED and IR, we just had the federal report on grants and everything, and I absolutely love this collaboration with the state. So thank you, Molly. Thank you, President CEO Jones, for that information. Okay, thank you for the wonderful presentation on this and all the people involved. This is a great project. I wanted to tell you this. The word crisis, housing crisis, I'm trying to redo that for myself, and I'm really looking at it as where's the opportunity here. So that's what I'm doing with that. So I wasn't clear. I know it's clear on the backup, but I wasn't clear on the funding. It was late yesterday, and I had trouble getting it, but I know it's there. I hope it's available. Point in time count, 16% increase in families experiencing homelessness. The operative word there is families, as we just alluded to that earlier. The CSIP received 557 referrals. 89%, 497 households could not be sheltered. That hurts. It's even worse for single women. What to do? Simply do our best with the resources we have and look for the opportunities that are presented and that are there everywhere. Love to all.
Thank you, Joy. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments, or do we have a motion? Commissioner Cushman.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is kind of a small world this morning. I'll start with saying I don't know how many of you know why it's called Door of Hope. Our family foundation has supported this facility for many, many, many years. For those of you that don't know why it's called Door of Hope, it originally was for unwed mothers. That's what this facility was originally built for. And when our children were very young, we had one of the girls from Door of Hope live with us for 3 months. So it's been a great facility ever since. Our family foundation supports this particular facility. 4 months ago, I had a tour, and it's a phenomenal facility. It's clean, organized, a wonderful place to live, nurturing environment. It's terrific. In addition, on this campus, another organization that our family supports is called Kitchens for Good, is on this same facility. So I was really pumped when I saw this item come through because it is the best of the best. And that we have become further involved with this organization, I just think it's terrific. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd be very pleased to make the motion to move this forward.
Thank you very much for that background and your support for it and your motion. Commissioner Vasquez.
Is it appropriate to speak now or after?
If you're commenting or have questions about this item,
Yes.
now, yeah.
This is just a comment for those of you. I volunteer at the restraining order clinic, and I can't tell you how many women stay in abusive or how many relationships because they don't have a place to stay. So giving this opportunity to the partnership to be able to leave an abusive situation and have a place to land is key for survival. For a lot of mothers and a lot of just women who don't feel like they have any choice. So I too was excited to see this on the agenda, and I'm in support of us of continuing the relationship and increasing whatever number of beds we can.
Thank you. Any other commissioner questions, comments, or do we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Jackson. I'm sorry, we had a motion by Commissioner Cushman, second by Commissioner Jackson. Thank you, though.
By Commissioner Hubbard.
Yeah. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much. On to item 100. Next we have, 101. Next we have item 101, the preliminary bond authorization and Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act hearing for Studio 15 apartments. We will take public comments after the staff presentation. Michelle Munez, the Director of Underwriting and Multifamily Housing Finance, will present this item. I'm sorry if I got your name wrong.
Muniz, it's fine.
Muniz, thank you. Appreciate it. Well, please begin when you're ready.
Good morning, Commissioners. The item before you today is a request to take the initial steps to issue tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue bonds and hold a TEFRA hearing to facilitate the acquisition and rehabilitation of Studio 15 apartments. Studio 15 consists of 272 affordable studio units plus 2 unrestricted one-bedroom manager's units. The property is located at 1475 Imperial Avenue in the downtown community planning area of Council District 3. It is currently rent restricted from a 2006 bond issuance through the Housing Authority of the City of San Diego. A new allocation of bonds will preserve the property's affordability status for a new 55-year term. The 272 units are restricted at 40 to 60% of the San Diego's area median income, which equates to annual incomes between $42,450 to $63,660 per year for one-person households. The project includes one 5-story building over 1 level of subterranean parking with a total of 64 stalls. Amenities include a theater room, community dining and lounge area, a Wi-Fi room, full-size community kitchen, laundry facilities, controlled access parking, and bike storage. The developer of the project is San Diego-based Affirmed Housing Group. They are an experienced and award-winning developer which owns and operates more than 70 affordable communities across the United States. Housing Development Partners of San Diego is currently and will continue to be the nonprofit managing general partner providing the welfare tax exemption for the project. Services for the tenants is currently and will continue to be provided by Compass for Affordable Housing and will include community activities as well as adult education and health and wellness classes, which are free of charge to all residents. Proposed renovations include unit interior and common area upgrades such as new flooring, new appliances, ADA improvements, energy-efficient light fixtures, low-flow plumbing fixtures, cabinet upgrades, new countertops, and energy-efficient windows. Unit utilities will be modified to all electric. Renovations to the exterior and maintenance systems include improvements to the parking garage, building facade, solar enhancements, as well as upgrades to the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, including pumps, central boilers, and sewer lines. In addition, the elevator will be updated and the heating and air system will be replaced. Total renovation costs will be approximately $80,000 per unit. Here is a site map of the development. The closest bus stop is located less than a quarter mile from the project. The closest grocery store is 0.4 miles away, and the closest schools are within 0.3 miles from the project site. The total development cost of the project will be approximately $72.2 million, which equates to $264,000 per unit, of which approximately $80,000 per unit are for the actual renovations. Notable sources of funding include a tax-exempt bond finance permanent loan, 4% tax credit equity, a City of San Diego assumed loan, and deferred developer fee. No Housing Commission loan funds are proposed for this development. The property will be comprised of 272 units and 2 one-bedroom managers units. Rents will be restricted at 40 to 60% of the San Diego area median income. Rents will range from $818 to $1,226 per month. Should this be approved today, the developer will apply to CIDLAC for a bond allocation on August 27th. Should the developer receive an award of bonds at the December 11th meeting, we anticipate bringing this item back for final bond-related approvals in April 2025. In addition to Housing Commission Board approval, the project will also be brought before the Housing Authority for approval in May 2025. The developer expects to close construction financing and begin construction in June 2025 and complete construction in June 2027. Here is a current photo of the property's exterior. You are considering approvals to take the preliminary steps to issue up to $40 million in tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue bonds. Approval of the bond issuance and Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act resolution does not commit the Housing Authority to issue bonds. The bonds would not constitute a debt of the city. If bonds are ultimately issued for the project, the bonds will not financially obligate the city, the Housing Authority, or the Housing Commission because security for the repayment of the bonds will be limited to specific private revenue sources of the project. Staff recommends that the board take the actions detailed in the staff report and shown on the following slides. This concludes the presentation. I, as well as representatives from the development team, are available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. We have one speaker slip for this item. Joy?
Do this later. Joy Sunyata, District 3. Thank you so much, Scott. As a public, I always feel honored and obligated to speak on these TEFRA hearing items. So here I go. Studio 15, thank you for the presentation. 274 units, 55 years. Cost per unit about $263,000. Yay. Acquisition and rehabilitation, love that. Earnings 40 to 60% of AMI. That, to me, that looks like middle income people help. Here's what I really loved. Housing Commission strategic plan. I'm starting to look all over the place for this. This item relates to strategic priority area number 1 in the Housing Commission strategies plan for FY 2022 to 2024. Increasing and preserving housing solutions. Love the word increasing and preserving housing. I'm looking forward to the FY 2025-2027 strategic plan. Thank you for the appraisal information. Now I'm beginning to understand the need for City Council to update, they're going to do this, to update policy number 700-12. And also thank you for the needed relocation information. There was a lot of it there, and that was really complex, but very important. So love to all. And a little caveat, this is District 3. I'm a District 3 person, and we love and support density. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Joy. Before we take a motion, our general counsel is going to read something in the record. Would you like to do that now or after Commissioner comments?
Do it right now.
Okay, let's do it now.
That works. As referenced in the board report, HDP, which is an affiliate of the San Diego Housing Commission, is the general partner of this entity. Two of our board members, including Vice Chair Klumpner, sit on that board as a director. In addition, the CEO is the CEO of HDP. For the purposes of conflict, under the provisions of Government Code Section 87103 and Section 1090 of the Government Code, there are no conflicts with regard to anyone on this board voting on this item. There are exemptions under the provisions of 1091, and there is and in addition, under 87103, none of the directors nor the CEO receives compensation for their work on the Housing Development Partner Board. That concludes my comments. And I would ask that that be incorporated in the minutes of the approval.
Thank you, Chuck. Any questions or comments from the commissioners? Seeing none, is there a motion? Motion by Commissioner Cushman, second by Commissioner Vasquez. Thank you. All those in favor? The motion passes unanimously. Any opposed? No. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Michelle. Item 102 is the preliminary bond authorization and tax equity fiscal responsibility act hearing for Green Manor. We will take public comments after the staff presentation. Michelle Muniz will also be presenting this item. Please begin when you are ready.
Good morning again, Commissioners. The item before you today is a request to take the initial steps to issue tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue bonds and hold a TEFRA hearing to facilitate the acquisition and rehabilitation of Green Manor apartments. Green Manor is located at 4041 Ibis Street in the Uptown Community Plan area of Council District 3. The project consists of a total of 149 units serving seniors ages 62 and older. All units are income restricted between 30 to 60% of the San Diego area median income, which equates to $31,850 to $72,720 per year for 1 to 2 person households. 2 one-bedroom units are reserved for on-site property management. All units are currently rent restricted by either a Section 8 housing assistance payment contract through LA LOMOD or a HUD Section 202 contract. An allocation of bonds will preserve the property's affordability status for a 55-year term. The project includes one 13-story tower with 16 surface parking stalls. Amenities include on-site resident services offices, a community room, on-site management, a picnic area, a laundry room, and a library. The developer of the project is Rad Group LLC. They are an experienced for-profit developer which has successfully completed previous developments with the Housing Authority of the City of San Diego as bond issuer. Resident services for the tenants will be provided by MJ Housing and will include access to health care and mental health services, care planning, food and nutrition services, as well as financial management and education. Services are available for all residents and are free of charge. Proposed renovations include unit interior and common area upgrades such as paint, flooring, appliances, plumbing and fixtures, cabinet upgrades, new countertops, and doors. Renovations to the exterior and maintenance systems include balcony repairs or replacement, a new roof, parking lot repairs, ADA improvements, electrical panel replacement, as well as upgrades to security and fire protection systems. Renovation costs for this development are approximately $85,000 per unit. Here is a site map of the development. The project is located in the desirable Mission Hills neighborhood of San Diego. The closest bus stop is located less than 500 feet from the project. The closest grocery store is less than 150 feet away, and the closest school is within 0.7 miles from the project site. The total development cost of the project will be approximately $78.5 million, which equates to $527,000 per unit, of which approximately $85,000 per unit are for the actual renovation costs. This aligns to recent closings for acquisition and rehabilitation projects. In this case, nearly 70% of the total development cost is due to the acquisition of the property. The cost to acquire assists the project's financing by generating tax credit equity. Notable sources of funding include a tax-exempt bond finance permanent loan, 4% tax credit equity, owner equity, and deferred developer fee. No Housing Commission loan funds are proposed for this development. The property will be comprised of 99 studio units, 48 one-bedroom units, and 2 one-bedroom managers units. Rents will be restricted at 30 to 60% of the San Diego area median income. Rents will range from $795 to $1,818 per month. Should this be approved today, the developer will apply to SIDLAC for a bond allocation on August 27th. Should the developer receive an award of bonds at the December 11th meeting, we anticipate bringing this item back for final bond-related approvals in February 2025. In addition to Housing Commission board approval, the project will also be brought before the Housing Authority for approval in March 2025. The developer expects to close construction financing and begin construction in April 2025 and complete construction in February 2027. This is a current photo of the property's exterior. You are considering approvals to take the preliminary steps to issue up to $45 million in tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue bonds. Approval of the bond issuance and Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act resolution does not commit the Housing Authority to issue bonds. The bonds would not constitute a debt of the city. If bonds are ultimately issued for the project, the bonds will not financially obligate the city, the Housing Authority, or the Housing Commission because security for the repayment of the bonds will be limited to specific private revenue sources of the project. Staff recommends that the board take the actions detailed in the staff report and shown on the following slides. This concludes the presentation. I, as well as representatives from the development team, are available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one speaker slip for item 102. Joy, when you're ready.
Appreciate it so much. Joy Senyata, District 3. First of all, I'll say this. As a public, I feel very honored and obligated to speak on these TEFRA items. This one, Green Manor, thank you for the presentation. 149 units, 55 years. Cost per unit, $527,000. Isn't that wonderful? Again, acquisition and rehabilitation. And of course, the word seniors is special to me. I'm a senior, did you notice? And so with the seniors and the earning levels 30 to 60% of AMI, I was concerned about that. And I did have it was late, I had a little trouble understanding the section that talked about Section 8 and that other funding. So I think that'll continue. Got my fingers crossed because for seniors, any help we can get in that area is so important these days. Very good assistance services in many areas for the seniors. Thank you again for the information on the appraisals. That's very critical now. We're looking more at that, more and more. And it is complicated, and I'm learning as I go along. So, and thank you also there's no relocation, I believe, in this, and I really appreciate the information on the relocation stuff. So, great. And again, thank you for the strategic plan part of the backup. So, that's it. Love to all. I'm finished for the day. I'll listen and just appreciate all of you so very much. It was really great today. There was so much that came out of all of you, and I love that. So thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Commissioners, do you have any questions, comments, or a motion?
I have one
Commissioner
question.
Jackson.
Yes, I have one question. So is this property currently owned or leased by the San Diego Housing Commission, or no? Or we're going to purchase acquisition?
It's not owned by the Housing Commission. It's owned by Rad Group.
Okay. So the people that are in there now, are they currently part of the Housing Commission, or what's the status on that?
No, all units are currently affordable. They all have vouchers on each unit, but no relation to the Housing Commission or ownership from the Housing Commission.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Vasquez.
If I may, I'm supportive of this project in large part because this is part of the problem that we have in San Diego, is that our residents aren't capable of living in their community with their families and their support system as they get older because of the cost of living. And I see projects for 55 and up specifically in Penasquitos. We have a project in Juniper that is 2,600 square feet, and it's over $750,000 per unit, and it's just not reasonable. We could have done so much with that land if it had actually been for affordable housing for seniors or for small families. So I'm excited to see this project and supportive of it, and we need more of this. You should be able to live in your community your entire life without having to become a millionaire or wealthy. So I'm excited that this is happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it is great to see preservation projects. We approved so many 55-year terms, and the whole affordable housing system is now at the point where we see that term ending or the end is in sight. And so anytime that we see that continue, it's so important for these communities. Do we have a motion? A motion by Commissioner Hubbard, second by Commissioner Vasquez. Thank you very much. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Michelle. Item 103. The next item is an informational workshop about the insurance market and rising costs. We will take public comment on item 103 after the staff presentations. Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer Suket Dayal and Senior Vice President of Policy and Land Use, Molly Weber, will present this item. Please begin when you are ready.
Thank you, Vice Chair Clementer, for the introduction. So lately, the news has highlighted how it's getting tougher for individual homeowners to procure insurance. Carriers are either leaving or refusing to write new policies in California. Unfortunately, this challenge is being experienced in the private business and public sector as well, as our rates continue to rise across our policies. So in this workshop, we wanted to share some of the unique current policies that we have and then dive into some unique challenges in 3 of our policies. We'll then move on to cost mitigation solutions, and then Molly will share the legislation and advocacy efforts in Sacramento that hopefully have a positive impact on rates. So our comprehensive insurance policy consists of 11 insurance programs, and that's 25 insurance policies. Tracy Bryson from my team leads our efforts. She is our resident insurance genius, sitting right there to answer all the tough questions. She works very closely with Alliant, who's our insurance broker. Alliant provides support to all facets of our brokerage services, including the marketing of our lines of insurance, as well as administrative support on our policies. Today we're going to look at 3, I said we're going to look at 3 policies. We'll take a look at our general liability policy, then we'll talk about property insurance, and then we'll talk about workers' compensation. So general liability provides coverage for Housing Commission liabilities that occur as a result of alleged negligence or omissions. Coverage includes bodily injury, physical damage, and personal injury. Housing Commission procures this policy from Housing Authority Risk Retention Group, or HARG. I want to focus on this slide. It shows the current liability insurance trend. And if you look at the decade from 2010 to 2020, there's been about an 11% average increase every year. We see a little bit of a slowdown after that, but we fear that is just because there is a backlog of court cases. And as soon as post-COVID court cases settle up, we will see another spike in that slide. This slide shows narrowing the lens a little to California public agencies. So on this slide, you see a trend of how the top claims stack up. So you're looking at the blue bar out there, which is the mean value of the top 75 claims. And then you go to 50 claims, 25 claims, and then of course the top 10 claims. And as you can see in the last 3 to 5 years, the jump is quite significant compared to what it was, how it had been trending traditionally. Number of claims are increasing, the cost of claims are increasing. One of the factors in here is a term that they call nuclear verdict. Nuclear verdict is exceptionally high jury awards in civil lawsuits. Now, if it surpasses 10 million, it's termed nuclear verdict. And that is one of the contributing factors in the increase in rates. Moving on to property insurance. Property insurance provides Housing Commission coverage for damage to real and personal property as a result of a covered peril. Insurance coverage is currently provided by PRISM, which is Public Risk Innovation Solutions Management. Across the nation, we're experiencing more frequent destructive weather conditions. Now, as costs increase, the renewal premiums typically see the increase. Specific to affordable housing, a National Leased Housing Association survey in fall of 2023 showed that nearly 1/3 of affordable housing providers have reported increases of at least 25%. Put some perspective on it. This slide shows some pretty scary data on weather and climate disasters in our nation that exceed $1 billion. There were 28 individual billion-dollar disasters events in 2023. There were around 18 in 2022 and about 20 in 2021. Typhoons, wildfires, flooding, hurricanes, they all put a strain on the capacity of the market. As of July 9th this year, we've already had 15 confirmed weather or climate disasters with losses exceeding $1 billion in our nation. Again, narrowing the lens a little to California, earthquakes used to be our primary and only concern. Then wildfires got added to the mix here. And now, somewhat newer challenge are the atmospheric rivers, particularly in the last couple of years. So atmospheric river are plumes of water vapor that transport from the poles and dump heavy rain or snow when they hit land. They hit hard and they hit fast. Recent study showed 51 atmospheric river events along the western U.S. coastline from late 2023 through March of 2024. We experienced this firsthand in February 2024 as 2 atmospheric rivers brought extensive flooding, intense winds, and power outages to San Diego and other portions of Southern California. Somewhat tied to this, a related factor that we're noticing is a valuation update. So as claims are paid, carriers then realize that the replacement costs are a lot higher than what their valuations were. So then they go in and ask for a valuations update, and that of course translates, unfortunately, to a higher premium. Last policy for discussion is our workers' compensation insurance. This is a type of insurance that provides benefits to employees who are injured or become ill as a result of their job. These benefits could be cash benefits and or medical care for our employees. California Housing Workers Compensation Authority is a housing authority's joint powers authority that provides our workers' compensation insurance. This has been a relatively stable line of coverage in recent years. Accident frequency has been steady or slightly down. However, the severity continues to trend upwards as rates of medical costs continue to rise. And again, a narrower lens on California, just to share a California stat on permanent partial disability. This term refers to a lasting partial disability resulting from a work injury or work illness. So these benefits may be awarded to an employee whose injury prevents them from working as efficiently as they did before the injury. California does have a larger share of permanent partial disability claims. We have 577 for 100,000 employees, and the national mean is about 205. So now that we're past the bad news, let's talk about some measures we can try to combat some of these increases. So I'm going to take a step back and from a fiscal perspective, from a fiscal insurance perspective, just go through the basic business model that they're operating on. Insurance company is going to assume the financial risk of a covered event on behalf of the individual or a company. If they price that risk effectively, they'll generate more revenue and premiums than they spend on payouts. Everybody's happy. Not everybody's, well, they're happy. If they don't, that's when you start seeing the quote-unquote catch-ups in the premiums in the subsequent years to make themselves whole. Of course, we pay the price for it. So from an agency perspective, one of the easiest ways of reducing your premium, easiest but not always advisable, is you lower your coverage or you increase your deductible. Now we're getting into risk analysis and taking a look at our loss ratio history, and those are some pretty tough decisions because essentially lowering your coverage is not, it sounds like a very simple solution, but then one good claim can make a big difference in the history of the agency. What we've benefited from is our long-term carrier relationships. We are part of a lot of joint powers authorities or self-insuring pools. PRISM is an example, our property insurance. It's a member-directed self-sharing pools. We're also very active in our claims management. Tracy works very closely with Alliant. We work very closely with with our legal team and insurance providers. We host preventive measures trainings from a property insurance perspective. Our real estate team always ensures we stay current on maintenance, on inspections, trainings, try to avoid limits and claims. And lastly, we need to push for legislative action. And with that, I'll pass it on to Molly.
Thanks, Suket. And as I go through the work that's being done at the state around kind of trying to tackle this insurance crisis, it's important to remember it's a long time coming, and that the state is now trying to determine how to move forward to get this real crisis under control. And there's no silver bullet policy, one piece of legislation that is going to address this. So the California Fair Access to Insurance Requirements, or FAIR plan, which many of you may have started to read about now that there's more coverage of the insurance crisis, was established by statute in August 1968 to meet the needs of California homeowners who at the time were unable to find insurance in the traditional marketplace. The FAIR plan is a fire insurance pool composed of all insurers licensed to conduct property business in California. And the FAIR plan issues policies on behalf of its member companies who participate in the profits, losses, and expenses of the plan in direct proportion to their market share of business written in the state of California. The FAIR plan is not a state agency or a public entity, and no public funding or taxpayer dollars are used. While the FAIR plan was originally meant to be a temporary safety net or a plan insurer of last resort, it has nearly tripled in size, from 126,709 policies in 2018 to more than 350,000 in 2024. Proposition 103 was passed by the voters in 1988. This requires insurers to receive approval from the insurance commissioner before a rate can be instituted. While insurance companies are legally free to choose where they will write policies in California, the measure mostly barred the use of forward-looking catastrophe models. Instead, insurers set premiums based on the last 20 years of losses. Severe wildfires in 2017 and 2018, as Suket had showed, has helped fuel California's current insurance market crisis. 8 of California's top 15 insurers have paused, stopped writing new policies, or pulled out of California since 2022. And last month, State Farm, California's largest insurer, signaled it was worried about going out of business if it could not raise its premiums at least 25% for homeowners. Fewer carriers means property owners, including affordable housing providers, cannot shop around for lower prices, driving up costs for everyone in the marketplace. In September of last year, California Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara announced his Sustainable Insurance Strategy, a package of executive actions aimed at improving insurance options. The strategy will allow insurance companies to use forward-looking catastrophe models if and only if they increase writing of policies in wildfire-distressed areas. Last month, the California Department of Insurance released a statewide wildfire risk map showing areas where wildfire risk and FAIR Plan policies are concentrated. The map provides insurance companies with direct knowledge of where they need to write more policies in the state in order to utilize the catastrophe modelings in their rates. The department uses data about an area's risk of severe wildfires, average household income, percentage of properties already insured by the FAIR Plan, and other metrics to identify where insurers must increase coverage in exchange for being permitted to use the forward-looking model. The wildfire distressed areas map will be updated annually. You'll see that nearly 20 San Diego County zip codes are reflected in the statewide map. While the full catastrophe modeling regulation is slated for adoption by year end, the California Department of Insurance plans to propose regulations later this month to allow insurance companies that take on greater risks in California to incorporate a reinsurance cost component in their rate filings to cover the risk that they're taking. Also this month, Commissioner Lara plans to require the FAIR Plan to increase coverage to $20 million per structure for larger homeowners associations, condo associations, farms, and other businesses. And implementation of these new regulations will likely extend into the rest of the year. In addition to the regulatory changes proposed by the insurance commissioner, our assembly member from San Diego, David Alvarez, has proposed a legislative effort to further strengthen the FAIR Plan. Currently, insurers would have just 30 days to aid the FAIR Plan if an assessment occurred. Assembly Bill 2996 would extend this payment timeline by authorizing the FAIR Plan to utilize bond funding from the California Infrastructure and Economic Development Bank. In May, Governor Gavin Newsom has proposed trailer bill language designed to expedite the insurance rate approval process in California. This bill would require the state's Department of Insurance to respond to rate requests from insurers within 120 days. Currently, it is supposed to, per department regulation, be 60 days, but many are saying it's taking more than a year to get that response, which is why the 120 days is important to the governor. If an insurer requests a rate hike averaging more than 7%, the department must provide a suggested rate within this time frame. The bill would also allow for the use of catastrophe models for setting rates, aiming to better reflect current and future risks, such as those posed by wildflowers. That concludes our presentation, and we are available for any questions.
No speaker slips have been submitted for item 103. So this concludes the public comment period for this item. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments? Commissioner Cushman.
Thank you, Suket. What is our workers' comp ex-mod?
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the term.
Our experience modification?
I'm not familiar with it. Tracy? You need the, so we are part of a pool, and that's how we basically get our workman's compensation, but we can get that.
Yeah, we still have an experience modification. Okay, you can get it. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Hubbard.
What is, could you explain nuclear verdict? Thank you.
So one of the issues that the insurance company states as a reason for the increase is when things go to court and go to a lawsuit, the verdict amounts awarded by the jury is a lot higher than what have happened in the past. So whenever it goes over $10 million in favor, that's something which the insurance company has to pay up. And as those keep increasing, and you have more and more nuclear verdicts, or more than $10 million awarded in compensation, the costs have to be made up somewhere, and that's where insurance companies then adjust their premiums accordingly. So.
Challenging environment, and I appreciate that we are forward-looking on this. I'm not particularly encouraged that this is going to be resolved, but I suppose the best we can do is plan for it and anticipate for it and continue to advocate for policies that help insulate us. Oh, excuse me. Yes.
So first a comment. This seems very similar, seems like the same issue that we had with health insurance, that insurance companies expect a huge profit, much more than 1%, which is the typical percent of profit that companies are to be considered profitable. The question I have is, was that taken into account, or in your research did you find out like what their annual profit was for these individual companies?
No, we don't have the numbers, but that's absolutely true. They work on a simple business model, and their percentage is a lot higher. That's why the state is trying to put some curtail it a little bit of a game of who folds first, because that's when the insurance companies decided we're just going to leave the state.
Right. So it sounds like a federal regulation is in need, similar to ACA, that requires, if you want to play in our country, you gotta actually provide services that are rendered, because the alarming issue that I found out about insurance, or hazard insurance specifically, is it's supposed to cover acts of God, right? Like things that involve Mother Nature, but it doesn't cover earthquakes unless you have a separate policy, and it doesn't cover floods. And on top of that, just because you have with the issue is that the climate crisis is going to create more acts of God that are going to affect people, and they're not going to be covered. In addition to that, condominiums, condo insurance does not have the same type of requirement to look at the coverage for the individuals. So you don't have this 2% increase in the amount of coverage for your unit, and so you 20 years later in all of our condos, they're not being forced to look at their policy to increase it in order to cover for the cost of labor and the cost of reconstruction the way SFRs are. So.
And just to add, Commissioner Vasquez, that's, I think, the concerning piece of how much FAIR has increased, because it was not meant to be the insurer for those that are in really the most vulnerable parts of our state. And so what we're seeing is not only has it tripled since 2018, but the exposures are significantly higher than the revenue that's coming in from the companies that are paying into it. And so you're overburdening now the insurer of last resort without kind of any more, if anyone else leaves the state, it's going to just further stress that system.
Sorry, it sounds like, that's not sustainable. That's the concern, right? It's not sustainable because it was never meant for the purpose it's being used, and it's now being overburdened on top of that. And frankly, it doesn't sound like even if insurers get to the point where they could qualify for the forward-looking model, that doesn't sound like that's going to be better if they're, modeling the future based on the last several years. And to your point around insurance, we just saw that through this last storm incident in January. We've had about $600,000 in damages to one of our sites, which is not being covered by our insurance.
The last comment I'll make is, this is partly what concerns me about the development model in the state of California, because we predominantly build new housing, in particular in areas that have high fire and other liability exposure. Our properties obviously are urban mostly, and don't have that type of exposure, but in a world in which we require all of these other properties that are sustaining billions of dollars in damage across the state to also be recipients of insurance, essentially agencies like ours and property owners like us end up bearing a lot of the cost of the insurance market as a whole. So, this is partly when I look at the housing policies at the state level, properties in urban areas are effectively subsidizing properties that are further out and have more wildfire exposure, and that's a very concerning long-term trend. And I hope that in our interactions with the state, we're pointing out to them that our residents and our agency is paying the cost for development that occurs hundreds of miles from here. Thank you. This is an informational item only, so no motion is required. This concludes the board's meeting today.
Excuse me.
Commissioner Cushman.
Thank you. On informational item on our investment report, I just want to ask if we can have an investment committee meeting. 2.55% return is not acceptable to me.
Do we have that on, I don't know if we have that on the schedule at this point. We will get something scheduled. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
This concludes the board's meeting today. The meeting is adjourned at 10:28. Thank you all for the robust public comment and discussion. I will never let Chair Mitchell live down the 10:30 adjournment time. Thank you.
Yeah, he might need to take vacation more often. Actually, he's not on vacation. It's on business, but still.